Welcome back to the deep dive. Ready to dive into something pretty interesting.
Always.
Today we're going to be tackling Leviticus 14.
Okay.
It's a chapter in the Bible all about cleansing rituals. And I know what you might be thinking. Okay, ancient hygiene.
Right.
Got it. But trust me, there is way more to it than just meets the eye. This is a chapter that you sent in, actually. You were really curious about like the deeper meaning behind these practices. And I get it. It's a really fascinating blend of the practical and also the symbolic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it really is. Just imagine this. A person in ancient Israel has finally been healed from a skin disease. This wasn't just a matter of taking some medicine. It was a huge deal. It could have impacted their entire social standing.
Yeah.
So they go to the priest, and this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, so walk us through it. Like, what happens next?
So the priest examines them, and if they're truly healed, the ritual will begin. They have to gather all these very specific items.
Okay.
Live birds.
Live birds.
Cedar wood. Crimson fabric. Hyssop. And each of these elements has a symbolic weight to it.
Hold on. Live birds. That's a bit unexpected.
It is, isn't it? So one bird is slaughtered, and its blood is actually used in the ritual.
Wow.
So now think about birds for a moment.
Okay.
They represent freedom, purity, even like the soul taking flight. So this act could symbolize, transferring that impurity onto the bird itself.
Oh, so like a scapegoat.
Exactly, like a scapegoat taking the ailment away.
Wow, I never even thought about it that way. That's interesting. So the bird acts as a stand-in, taking the burden of that illness. What about the other materials, like the cedar wood?
Well, yeah. So cedar wood was used in like the construction of temples, places considered, sacred and pure. So using it here could represent the person almost being rebuilt, cleansed, and made ready to kind of like re-enter that sacred space of the community.
That's a really powerful image. What about the hyssop? I always thought that was just a cleansing herb, right?
Well, it is a cleansing herb, but it's more than that. Hyssop was actually used to sprinkle the blood of the Passover lamb on doorposts.
Oh, right.
Marking the Israelites as God's chosen people. So here it could signify, a rededication, almost a marking of this person as being restored and belonging to the community again.
Oh, I see. So these aren't just random ingredients.
Right.
They each carry all these layers of meaning.
Yes.
Connecting this physical act of cleansing to these deeper spiritual ideas.
Exactly. And it's not even just about the individual either.
Okay.
Leviticus 14 also goes on to describe cleansing rituals, but for houses.
Houses.
Almost like they understood the concept of a contagious disease long before modern medicine.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is where I need you to break it down for me. What did they do to, like, quote-unquote, cleanse a house?
So imagine a house that develops what they called an infection.
Okay.
It could be mold, mildew, any sign of impurity. So the priest would come in and inspect it. They would quarantine the house, and in some cases, they would even remove infected stones and plaster.
Whoa, so they weren't messing around. They recognized, like, the link between our environment and well-being. But how did they purify the house?
Yeah.
Once it was, like, quote-unquote healed, did they use those same symbolic materials?
They did. Birds, cedarwood, hyssop, crimson fabric. They would sprinkle this mixture throughout the entire house, actually mirroring that same ritual that we talked about for skin diseases.
Oh, so it wasn't enough for just the person to be cleansed?
Right.
Their living space needed to be purified as well. It's like this concept of purity extended beyond the individual to like their environment.
Yeah.
Almost like today we think about cleansing our homes, for peace of mind or to get rid of bad energy.
Yeah, that's a great connection. It suggests that this idea of holiness, of being set apart and pure, permeated every single aspect of their lives. And it brings us to a crucial point. In this context, holiness wasn't just about being morally good. It was about maintaining a right relationship with the divine, even within the physical world.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about outward actions. It was about aligning your entire being, your body, your home, with a higher spiritual order.
Yeah.
Like that's a totally different way of looking at things than we do today.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating how intertwined their physical world was with like their spiritual beliefs. But these rituals, as detailed as they are, they're just one piece of the puzzle, right? Where does this all fit into like the larger context of Leviticus and all those purity laws?
Yeah, you're right. Leviticus is full of rules and regulations about what's clean and unclean, pure and impure. These cleansing rituals are just a part of a much bigger system for maintaining holiness.
Okay, but what did holiness actually mean to them?
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty abstract concept.
Yeah, it is complex, but Think of it this way. Holiness was about being set apart, dedicated to God. And it wasn't just about avoiding certain actions or like certain foods. It was about actively cultivating a state of being, a way of life that reflected their relationship with the divine.
So these rituals weren't just about hygiene or morality like we understand them today. They were about aligning themselves with some kind of like sacred order, a way of being in the world that honored their covenant with God.
Exactly. And that's key to understanding these practices. We can't really judge them by our modern standards. We have to try to see them through the lens of their historical and cultural context.
Yeah, it's like trying to understand a completely different language with its own grammar and nuances.
Yeah.
But even then, there's always like more to learn, more layers to uncover. And that's what makes studying these texts so fascinating.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And while we may not be sacrificing birds or, sprinkling cedar wood around our homes today, I think there's a deeper message here that transcends those literal interpretations.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the deeper message? And how does it apply to us in like the 21st century?
Well, these rituals, while they were specific to their own time and place, speak to universal human desires. Longing for purification, renewal, a connection to something, bigger than ourselves. These are like timeless yearnings. We still grapple with them today.
That makes a lot of sense. So how do we translate those desires into meaningful practices in our own lives? Do we need to like create our own modern day rituals?
Maybe we do. It's about finding ways to cultivate a sense of sacredness, whether it's through meditation, spending time in nature, creating art, or even just being fully present in those everyday actions.
It's about being intentional, mindful, and recognizing that even the mundane can hold, a spark of the divine, that sense of awe and wonder that connects us to something larger than ourselves.
Precisely. It's about creating those moments of pause, of reflection, of connection, whether it's within ourselves, with each other, or with something, beyond our comprehension.
And maybe, just maybe, that's where the true power of these ancient rituals lies, in their ability to inspire us to seek out those moments of purification and renewal in our own unique ways.
And to remember that the pursuit of purity, in its broadest sense, is a journey, not a destination. It's a lifelong process of striving, seeking, and growing.
That's a beautiful way to put it. So we've explored the intricate details of these cleansing rituals. We've delved into their historical and symbolic significance, and we've even pondered the potential relevance for our lives today. It's been quite a journey.
What stands out to you the most from our deep dive so far?
For me, it's the way that these ancient practices, as foreign as they might seem to us, still resonate with something deep down inside. We may not really relate to the literal rituals, but the underlying desires for wholeness, for purity, for connection, those are timeless.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the power of symbolism. These rituals weren't just about the physical actions themselves. They were about tapping into this deeper layer of meaning, connecting the mundane to the divine.
Yeah, it's like they were creating a sacred space within the everyday, infusing their lives with a sense of purpose and intention. Which makes me think, could we benefit from something similar today?
I think so. We live in a world that's constantly pulling us in a million different directions.
Right.
It's so easy to just lose sight of what truly matters, to feel disconnected from ourselves, from something larger.
Yeah, so maybe these rituals, if we kind of strip them of their literal interpretations, they could offer us like a blueprint for creating those moments of pause, reflection, reconnection in our own lives.
Exactly. It's not about replicating the ancient practices. It's about finding what resonates with us personally, what helps us to cultivate a sense of peace, purpose, and wholeness in the midst of our crazy modern lives, right?
Right. Whether it's through meditation, spending time in nature, creating art, or even just being fully present with someone you love. It's about finding those practices that help us tap into that deeper sense of connection, that spark of the divine that's in each of us.
And remembering that it's a journey and not a destination. The pursuit of purity, in its broadest sense, is a lifelong process of striving, seeking, and growing. It's about continually seeking those moments of renewal, those practices that help us align ourselves with our deepest values and aspirations.
That's a really good point. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Leviticus 14, I hope you're leaving with a renewed sense of curiosity. Not just about these ancient rituals, but about the potential for creating, sacred spaces and practices in your own life. What resonated with you the most from our conversation today? What kind of modern day rituals will you embrace? That's something for you to think about as you go about your day. We would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey. Until next time, Keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
And keep those fascinating sources coming.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.